The history of aviation is filled with countless incidents of planes disappearing without a trace, creating mysteries and fueling our fascination with the unknown. Most of the time, these disappearances can be explained by factors such as weather, technical problems, or simply human error. But every now and then, there are cases that make you wonder if there's something more going on. That's where Flight Santiago 5113 comes into play. Stick with us until the end if you want to find out what happened to this plane. But before we begin, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Well, first, let's better understand this strange journey. Imagine a normal commercial flight. So far, nothing too extraordinary. The plane was packed with the crew and 88 passengers on board, all ready to embark on their own adventures. We're talking about families on vacation, business people, all kinds of folks. They were just going about their day, completely unaware of the insane roller coaster they were about to board. Little did they know that things were about to get very strange. On September 4th, 1954, just a day like any other, or so it seemed, Flight Santiago 513, a commercial plane departing from Aachen, Germany, was preparing for its journey to Santiago, Chile. The plane was full, with 88 passengers plus the crew, all ready to take off and reach their destination. Little did they know they were about to become part of a great mystery. Suddenly, without any warning, Flight 513 vanished from the radar. Poof, gone. Just like that. All communication was cut off, as if the plane and everyone on board had been swallowed by some kind of black hole. Aviation experts were unsettled, trying to figure out what on earth had happened. They investigated every possibility, hoping to find some trace of the lost plane. But it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. These experts were left utterly shocked, and you can imagine the crazy theories that started popping up once they ran out of answers. Some thought the plane might have gotten caught in turbulence or suffered some kind of malfunction. But wait, because things get even stranger. Rumors started spreading like wildfire, including the possibility of extraterrestrial abductions and alternate dimensions where time and space follow their own rules. I'm talking about some pretty out there stuff. But who knows? Maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe Flight 513 found a glitch in the Matrix, or was sucked into an alternate dimension where reality is completely different. On that fateful day, the plane, a modern and well-maintained commercial model, took off from Aachen, Germany, bound for Santiago, Chile. Weather conditions were calm and normal for the time, with no signs of trouble. As the flight crossed the vast Atlantic Ocean, its passengers settled into their seats, chatting, reading, or perhaps simply contemplating the destination that awaited them. Little did they know that this would be the last moment of their lives, at least as they had known it until then. Suddenly, without warning, Flight Santiago 513 disappeared from radar, vanishing into the depths of the Atlantic. The air traffic control tower, used to monitoring the steady flow of planes, now found itself staring at an empty space where the plane had once been. There was no distress call, no emergency signal, nothing. It was as if the plane had been plucked from the sky without leaving a trace. Massive ships combed the ocean, radar systems conducted meticulous searches, and investigators interviewed anyone who might have seen something. But guess what? No wreckage was found, no signs, no solid evidence. The aircraft disappeared as if it had flown into the Bermuda Triangle. The specialists and investigators were completely baffled. They found no records of distress calls, no traces of the plane, nothing. It was totally unbelievable and unlike other cases of disappearance. The lack of logical explanations, combined with the total absence of physical evidence, only deepened the mystery. Flight Santiago 513 was the biggest disappearance of its time, and people were left wondering what really happened in the Atlantic Ocean. 35 years later, on October 12, 1989, an unbelievable twist in the case of Flight 513 occurred. The air traffic control tower at Porto Alegre Airport in Brazil was going about its routine when it was startled. The flight controllers noticed something strange on their radar screens. An unidentified plane appeared out of nowhere, completely unexpectedly. Can you imagine the shock and the questions that started flooding their minds? It was as if Santiago 513 had decided to return from the abyss of aviation history. The whole airport was buzzing with the news. The airport authorities were on high alert, their hearts racing as they tried to make sense of the eerie situation. Was it some sort of ghost plane or a time traveler? No one had any idea, but one thing was certain. The legend of Santiago 513 was back in the spotlight, and the mystery was far from over. When the airport security team sprang into action, a mix of anticipation and excitement filled the air. Theories spread among the crew about the possibility of a bizarre event unfolding right before their eyes. They carefully guided the plane to one of the gates, not knowing what they would find inside the aircraft. As the airport security team approached the plane, they were faced with a shocking reality. It was indeed Santiago 513, the same plane that had disappeared 35 years earlier. But what awaited them inside the aircraft was a scene that would haunt their memories forever. As the security team stepped into the eerie silence of the plane, they were met with a chilling sight. The passengers and crew who had boarded the plane so many years ago were all still seated in their seats, frozen in time, their bodies reduced to nothing more than skeletal remains. The entire aircraft, once full of life, conversations, and the hum of engines, was now a sinister cemetery, frozen in time. Time had literally stood still, freezing the memories of those poor souls who had embarked on this cursed journey. When news of the discovery quickly spread, the aviation community and the entire world were in shock. It was as if they had been hit by a tidal wave of questions without solid answers. How did all these skeletons get there? What happened during those 35 years? But wait, because the story gets even more bizarre. The fact that they found skeletal remains only deepened the mystery surrounding this flight. It's like we're stuck in a bizarre detective story, with no clear solution in sight. The inexplicable events surrounding Santiago 513 cast a terrifying shadow over the entire story, leaving specialists and the public once again in the dark, wondering what really happened. This was a mystery on another level. One theory that gained a lot of followers was that the plane crashed into the ocean and sank like a rock, a tragic accident that would have killed everyone on board. According to this theory, perhaps there was no physical evidence because the wreckage lay at the bottom of the Atlantic, making it nearly impossible to find. And what about the lack of distress signals or emergency alerts? Well, maybe the whole thing happened so quickly that the pilot didn't even have time to make the call. But hold on a second. This theory doesn't explain everything. For example, how did the plane magically reappear 35 years later in Brazil? And what about the bizarre preservation of the skeletal remains? It feels like a scene straight out of a sci-fi movie. That's why some researchers started considering supernatural options in time travel, trying in some way to understand the mystery. Some experts suggested that Santiago 513 may have found a tear in time, sending the plane into another year or a parallel universe. They speculated that the passengers and crew could have traveled through time, frozen in their seats, while the world outside continued to move normally. The plane's appearance in Brazil, untouched by the passage of time, is seen as proof of a temporal anomaly. Paranormal explanations also emerged, with some suggesting that the flight was trapped by the intervention of supernatural forces. For proponents of this version, the souls of the passengers and crew were trapped on the plane, unable to move or free themselves. Invisible forces were at play, challenging the boundaries of our understanding and leaving us with more questions than answers. Another conspiracy theory proposed that the plane's reappearance was linked to extraterrestrial encounters or interventions. Some believe that the government was aware of the involvement of beings from other worlds or unidentified flying objects, and their silence was an attempt to keep this information from the public. Supporters of this theory argue that the skeletons found on the plane could not belong to the original passengers but to aliens or clones. A more sinister speculation even suggests that the disappearance of Flight 513 was intentional, part of a clandestine operation. This theory proposed that the government, or a secret organization, orchestrated the disappearance to conduct secret experiments. The return of the plane could have been the result of a failure or a leak in the secret plan. The case of Flight Santiago 513 drove the public crazy with curiosity, and the government was being very tight-lipped. You might think they would at least give some minimal clarification, but no, they kept their mouths shut. And you know what happens because of that? It only feeds our curiosity, giving rise to all kinds of absurd conspiracy theories. It's like they want us to believe there's more to this story than meets the eye. The fact that they don't even acknowledge what happened or offer any explanation is a huge red flag. It makes you wonder if there's some kind of government secret or secret experiments involved. But let's not get carried away by wild theories. We're trying to make sense of the entire enigma of Flight 5113 to Santiago, and that's no easy task. We're still in the dark, sifting through clues and digging deep for any hint of hidden knowledge or secret truths. The government's choice to keep the details under wraps has caused disappointment and frustration among the public. Many people have expressed dissatisfaction with the lack of transparency, demanding a full disclosure of the facts surrounding the plane's reappearance. Protests and demonstrations have taken place, calling for the truth to be revealed and accusing the authorities of covering up the facts. On the other hand, some scientists have had the bold idea that the plane might have accidentally fallen into a wormhole during its journey. Can you believe that? Imagine the plane flying around and suddenly it gets sucked into a cosmic tunnel or something and pops up in a totally different place or time. Impressive, right? But here's the problem with these so-called wormholes. They haven't been proven yet. Scientists believe that theoretically, they could be structures that connect distant points in space-time. Imagine them like shortcuts, cosmic bridges or tunnels that could make traveling through the universe much faster. But of course, all this wormhole stuff is based purely on scientific theory and advanced mathematics. Einstein, the genius behind the theory of general relativity, also had some ideas about these holes. He thought they could be possible, at least according to our current understanding of physics. So, while we're not 100% sure they exist, wormholes are definitely on the minds of scientists. Who knows what other mind-blowing discoveries are floating around in the cosmos, right? This hypothesis suggests that the flight may have experienced a rapid space-time distortion, allowing it to transcend the boundaries of ordinary travel. If such an event occurred, it would explain the flight's disappearance from radar screens and the lack of emergency signals or communication. But planes simply don't disappear off the face of the Earth. The plane could then have passed through the wormhole, traversing space-time in a way that is far beyond our current understanding. The consequences of manipulating space-time and harnessing the power of wormholes, if they exist, are profound. It could revolutionize our ability to explore the universe, allowing us to travel vast distances in significantly shorter periods. Interstellar travel, which until now has seemed like pure science fiction, could become a reality, opening new frontiers for human exploration and expanding our understanding of the cosmos. However, manipulating space-time in this way also raises significant ethical and practical considerations. The potential consequences of tinkering with the fabric of the universe are not yet fully understood. It is essential to tread carefully when exploring these implications, to ensure that our exploration and manipulation of space-time align with our values and do not threaten the preservation of our world. As scientific research continues to investigate the mysteries of wormholes and space-time manipulation, the story of Flight Santiago 513 serves as a captivating reminder of the possibilities that lie beyond our current understanding. It demands that we explore the frontiers of scientific investigation, pushing the boundaries of what we know and challenging our perception of the universe we live in. The connection between Bruce Jernan's discoveries in the Bermuda Triangle and the disappearance and reappearance of Flight Santiago 513 adds another layer of speculation to the mystery of these unexplained phenomena. Bruce Jernan is a pilot and author who claims to have survived a space-time distortion while flying through the infamous region. Jernan's experiences offer a unique perspective on unexplained phenomena and point to possible connections with the mysterious disappearance of Flight Santiago 513. In December 1970, Jernan embarked on a flight from Andros Island in the Bahamas to Miami, Florida. It was a relatively routine trip, passing through the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. However, the flight took an unexpected turn when he encountered what Jernan described as an electronic fog. This dense, swirling cloud seemed to envelop the plane, distorting his perception of time and space. Jernan reports that as he flew through the electronic fog, the plane's instruments failed and he felt a strange distortion around him. The sky above him seemed to spiral into a tunnel-like shape, with bright lights and disorienting sensations. Despite the chaos around him, Jernan maintained control of the aircraft and emerged from the anomaly, eventually reaching his destination. Based on his experiences, Jernan coined the term electronic fog to describe the mysterious phenomenon he encountered. He theorizes that this fog is a unique natural occurrence in the Bermuda Triangle, capable of distorting space-time and causing disruptions in navigation and communication systems. Connecting Jernan's story to the disappearance of Flight Santiago 513, we can speculate about the possibility of similar events. If the flight indeed encountered a space-time distortion or entered a wormhole, as previously discussed, it is possible that it went through a phenomenon similar to the electronic fog. This fog may have played a role in interfering with the plane's instruments and communications, leading to the aircraft's disappearance and reappearance. So, you've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, right? That place in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where ships and planes seem to disappear without a trace? Well, it turns out there are a few more places like that in the world. One of them is called the Devil's Sea Zone, or Dragon's Triangle if you want a fancier name. The Devil's Sea is located in the Pacific Ocean, near Japan. And just like the Bermuda Triangle, people have reported all kinds of strange things happening there. However, there isn't much solid evidence to back up these claims. Then there's the Michigan Triangle, which is in the middle of Lake Michigan. Apparently, ships and planes have disappeared there too. Before we jump to any conclusions, let's take a step back and think about this a little more. Some skeptics say that the number of disappearances isn't really that unusual when you consider the amount of traffic in the area. So it could just be cases of people being careless or having a bit of bad luck. Now let's get back to the subject of Santiago 5113. Some people think this story is just made up. Critics point out similarities between the story of Flight 513 and an old episode of The Twilight Zone, where a plane travels through time. Plus, the story of Santiago 513 first appeared in those sensationalist magazines known for stretching the truth. So how can we sum up the whole story of Flight Santiago 513? Some people believe the case really happened, and they think there's something the government is hiding about it. They believe the lack of concrete evidence is part of a major cover-up, or some highly classified information is being kept secret. On the other hand, there are those who think the story is completely made up. To them, the story is nothing more than an absurd narrative that captured people's attention thanks to sensational tabloids. But here's an interesting twist. There was another similar incident. In the 1970s, National Airlines Flight 727 disappeared over the Gulf of Mexico. It too simply vanished from radar. But get this, it reappeared later. And everyone on board didn't even realize that time had passed. Pretty strange, right? The details of this case are still being debated, much like with Santiago 513. But they share some elements, such as the sudden disappearance, the lack of distress calls, and the mysterious return. But let's be honest, despite these curious stories, including Flight Santiago 513, we're still left with a lot of doubts. There's a big challenge here, and that's the lack of solid evidence. All the controversy surrounding these stories just shows how we need to put on our critical thinking caps and dig deeper to separate fact from fiction when it comes to these mysterious disappearances and reappearances. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos like this. Also, leave a comment with your opinion about this bizarre story. We'd love to know what you think. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.